Hi, welcome back to Studio of Psalms. I'm your host Coda, and today's episode is called Plot Twist. Let's dive into it. So, when I mean plot twist, everybody should know what plot twist means. If you don't, I can really just explain it in a simple way. A plot twist is when a turning point happens. It's basically like that. So, let's dive into it. When you begin to feel like your faith is faltering, remember you are not the author, Jesus is. And what I meant by this when I wrote it down, when God spoke it to me, was you are not the one writing your story. You are not the one who has signed their name on this book. God is. The author is not your name. Your name may be on the book because it is your life, but again, it is not your life that you're living. You're living for Jesus. So when Jesus died on a cross for us, he gave his life and we gave our life to him. So when we say, yes, God, I surrender to you, we say, God, this is in your hands. I trust you enough that I know that I may not understand in the moment, I may not understand now, but I know in time it will be worth it. So we're talking about the plot twist of life, the plot twist of anything. The plot twist I'm talking about today is when God is the author of our story, God has a shelf full of books. For each of us, each book God has is a life given to him that we trust him with. So when we lack that sort of faith and that sort of trust, we start to turn the plot. We start to give those selfish ambitions and fleshly desires the fire to go lean on its own understanding. So when we trust in God, when we're looking at it as God, I trust you. I'm letting that book be in your place. Not in your place. I'm letting that book be on the shelf, knowing that when you take it off the shelf, you're still writing. But the thing is, God's already done writing. He just wants you to trust and know that he is moving. The book has already been written before we were even born. When we were in our mother's womb, the book was already wrote. So we're so focused on the climax of our stories. We're so focused on being at the top of the hill, the top of the mountain, in that good place, in that a blessing place, not knowing that even in the below, in the valley, we still have blessings. We still have life. So why, when you don't receive it, when you don't see it, do you stop trusting in God? Get this. This is what happened in Exodus chapter 32, verse 7 through 8. It says this. The Lord told Moses, quick, go down to the mountain. Your people whom you brought from the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. How quickly they have turned away from the way I commanded them to live. They have melted down gold and made a calf, and they have bowed down and sacrificed to it. They are saying, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the Lord of Egypt. Now you may read this and think, how does this go to a plot twist? How does this represent with God's books? How does this define God's story for your life? This is how. So if you look closely at what they were doing, they turned. They had a turning point where God brought them out of Egypt. Jesus brought them out of Egypt through Moses to lead them. And then after a while, they turned. Their faith wavered. Their trust became a rebellion. And they decided, since God couldn't answer this right now, I'm going to go turn this way. So the plot changed. Their lives changed. Their vision changed. Their focus changed to worshiping a golden calf. And you may say, yeah, but they were making idols. Yeah, so do we. We make idols out of our own selves. We make idols out of the life we want to live. So when I'm saying plot twist, I mean, we try to turn what God is already working out for our own way. We try to turn what God is doing to help ourselves and not to help others. So when we're looking at it, you can look at it as this. I just hit my mic. Look at it as this. If you ever been to a Scholastic book fair, um, they had these certain pens, these invisible pens or markers that you can write stuff with on the paper, and only you who had the UV light could see what you wrote down. And I feel like that's what God does in our life. So when we surrender our life to God, and we say, God, I trust you enough to know that this is what you're doing in my life. So when God gives us, when God is writing that book, he's writing it in that invisible marker. You know, people may say that doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense if you view it as God is writing it down. We just have to trust him enough, knowing that when he has the marker writing it down and we've had faith in him, we will see. The faith is the UV light, basically. And the marker is God's handwriting, God's plan for us. So when God is writing it out, we have the UV light of faith to trust that this is what God is doing in our life. This is what I trust him with. And even though it looks blank to the eye, I have faith enough in him and not in the life that I am going to live, I am going to trust, and I am going to receive what I've prayed for in time. So when we're focused on the outcome and not the right now, our faith is going to be wavering. If we're focused on the blessing and not Jesus, our faith is going to get low because we want to receive so much. We want to see so much in the now, in the present time, not knowing that even if we don't receive it, are we still going to love God? Even if we don't receive it, are you going to still follow God? So when they didn't receive what they wanted to in the wilderness, when they didn't receive what they needed, and not that they didn't receive what they needed, they had it. They had food, they had clothes, they had safety. God was bringing them out of it, but they started to trust less because what they wanted was their selfish ambitions, their selfish ways. They wanted to fulfill what they wanted from the flesh and not from the heart and the mind being renewed. So the plot thickened. They were so focused on the high points, the climax. They were so focused on that, not knowing that the valley is where they need to be for this time. And it wasn't even going to be for that long, but they decided to rebel against God. So they built the golden calf. They started to worship it. They started to idolize the life they always wanted because the God they were calling on to, the God who gives them life, they called on him and didn't answer. He didn't answer in that time. So they stopped trusting him. Why do we, as children of God, when God doesn't answer a prayer, why do we just look at it as God is not hearing me? No, God hears you, but God is preparing you. God hears you, but you're so busy trying to write your own story. So when God has that invisible marker, you have your own pen that you can see your own vision. And we're so focused. Oh my gosh. I know it says write it down and make it plain, but not everything you write down is good for you. Not everything you desire is good for you. The desires of your heart should come from God and not your flesh. The desire to have a beautiful wife should not come from your heart. That comes from your flesh because you're so focused on the beauty of this man of God or this woman of God. Start looking at the fruits. Stop trying to write your own life. Stop trying to fantasize over something that is not going to be good for you. If you're looking at it as, I just want somebody because my situation right now is lonely, want God more and stop trying to want your selfish ways. Stop turning the plot. Stop turning God's book into your own memoir. Live for him. Stop trying to live for yourself. Because your obedience is helping somebody else out there. But once you get that disobedience in there, once you start trusting God, once you start idolizing these golden calves, God is sitting there like, why do you trust in this more than me? Why are you worshiping false idols? Why are you worshiping something that isn't going to help you? Yeah, I may not answer as quick as you want to because I'm preparing you for it. Lord, I just did it, my fault. But yeah, he's preparing you for it. So stop taking your book off the shelf of God's hands. Stop taking your book out of God's hands to write your own story in it. He's already prepared it for you. Leave it in his hands. Leave it for him. Have faith knowing that you are the UV light and God is the author. Have faith in knowing that God is working it all out. He has you right where you need to be. So why stop the movement? Why stop the faith? Why stop the trust? Because if God told you he'll give it to you today, you would be so focused. But if God said he'll give it to you in 2 months, would you still trust him? 2 years, would you still trust him? 14 years, would you still trust him? How much more will God give you if you just wait on him, trust in him, sit with him? Yeah, it may be hard. It may be like overstimulating. You may be frustrated, but bring it back to God. Tell God how you feel. Tell God what you're going through. Tell God, I've prayed this. I feel like it hasn't happened. Be honest. Don't be scared to tell God how you feel, because he understands. But don't try to speed up God's plan. Don't try to speed up God's book. He is the author, not us. We are just the ones living. We are his children, but in the stories, we are the characters that God is making us. Don't take it as God is not answering. Don't take it as God is not listening. He hears everything we say. Trust in him and know that he is God. Trust and know that his plans are better than ours. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your hearts. The desires to trust in him, the desires to worship him, the desires to go serve, the desires to go love like Jesus did. Not the desires to receive more money, not the desires to receive a mansion, not the desires to receive women. Because the blessings come when you trust in him, when you focus on him. But that is not the outcome. That is not the goal. The goal is to be more like Jesus, to love more like Jesus, to inherit the kingdom and not hear, depart from me. Nobody wants to hear that, but we want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. So don't go turning the plot. Don't go focusing on the hilltops when you're in the valley. Focus on God when you're in everything.